Welcome to Unfinished Business. I'm your host, Kimberly Griggs, and today I am joined by Diane Camacho. She is a certified legal manager with 25 years of experience running law firms in the San Francisco Bay Area. And she is also the founder of DLC Consulting Services. She helps small firms nationwide fix their operation issues from trust accounting to practice management, software, hiring, intake billing, all of the above. And her mantra is attorneys should be practicing law, not running broken systems. So we are going to get into the playbook of how that is actually working for her and her clients. And Diane, I'm really excited to have you on the show and learn a little bit more about DLC.
Thank you. It's nice to be here.
So, as I was asking you earlier, what the moment where you decided that the legal field was interesting to you? Tell me a little bit about that moment.
Well, I was in high school and my mother worked in law firms. And so I was familiar with it and comfortable with it and wanted to have a job that I could have weekends and evenings off and afford an apartment and get out of my parents' house. So I went into law firm secretary work and started out there and worked as a secretary for a while, had a stint as a paralegal, and then took over management of one of the offices I was a secretary for. And that's kind of where I got started in the management realm. So I've managed small firms and then branch offices of multinational firms.
Were you running multiple firms at once? I mean, was that sort of the early evolution of DLC, like as a consultant or a freelancer?
I started in the 80s and I started this business in 2013. So it was quite a while.
What was the biggest need or gap that you were looking to try to fill after those years of experience?
Well, one of the things for small law firms is that they don't have the money or the need for a full-time person with my experience, somebody that's been doing this for a long time. And I knew that there was work for somebody to help them and to give them guidance. There was a change of employment in 2013, and my mother wasn't well, and it just seemed like it was the right time to kind of try it, whether going back into a law firm or starting my own business. And so I kept saying, oh, I'll do it for a year. I'll do it for a year. And here I am.
So tell me about that first client experience.
In the beginning, I pretty much took whatever work I could take. We all do that. So my work was referrals. I also spent some time working with my girlfriend's carpet company because I needed to work, and just kind of built on that, where I have a pretty big network in the Bay Area because I'd spent so much time here. I was able to kind of say, okay, I'm going out on my own. Does anybody know anybody, or do you need help? And you have to build up your confidence as well, right? We know what we're doing. I know what I'm doing, but the difference between my confidence level then and my confidence level now is not even in comparison. Just the fact that we kind of get to a point where, okay, I don't need to tell myself I'm okay all the time. I don't need to question my decisions all the time or my advice all the time.
I love that you shared that because I think that is one of the biggest challenges, that the term that I've heard used over and over again is kind of cliche, is that imposter syndrome.
Yes.
But when you are inside representing yourself, it's a whole different mindset. When you are in the operation day in and day out, your value as an employee translates pretty seamlessly. I mean, you do good work and you stand out by little things. But when you're trying to represent yourself and there's a whole lot more competition, it's often very intimidating. So I do think that that's a struggle of any entrepreneur at any stage of growth.
Expectation is higher. The
Yeah.
expectation is that I'm going to come in and solve a problem. I'm going to be a better solution than either the people there or than a solution that has already been thought about. So when you're coming into a business doing anything, marketing anything, you're expected to be the expert and you're expected to give good information and good advice. So there's a little bit more pressure for that.
Let's talk about one of those early experiences. What was a problem that you went to try to solve, and what was the outcome in that?
I started out primarily by helping new firms get organized and set up properly, if you will. So physically going in and working for them and doing the work that needed to be done. So if it was part secretary work and part paralegal work and part management work, I kind of did it all. But the goal was always to get them to a place where they could hire somebody internally, even if it was a part-time person versus a full-time person. Coming in and setting up systems because they had been attorneys, but they hadn't had staff yet. So, okay, what does that look like? What does that look like for um, hiring, benefits? How do we train them? What do what kind of work can we give them? What's a job description? Those kinds of things, getting them ready to grow. I also spent stints as a part-time legal administrator in a couple of firms that for various reasons, they needed a full-time person at a point. I wasn't the right fit for those. And that was kind of always the goal. So it was really getting in there and working in the firm with them. I don't do that very much anymore. I only do that in a crisis situation where I'll go in and help them.
What are some of your go-to, tools or management systems to, undertake that work?
We do bring people into the software realm. If a firm is in transition, they maybe don't have the software that others do because they've been managed by somebody that is older and more set in their ways, and then that person retires. So the younger folks come in and say, wait a minute, I don't want to do it that way. But normally we're going in and looking at what their systems are, and they have them even if they're not good and even if they aren't documented, right? There is some system to their madness. So going in there and really just evaluating it and trying to make suggestions and changes to the system that they have. It might be that they're just not using it. A lot of times going in there and tweaking things, going in there and having them stop writing everything down and putting it in the computer. Going in there and saying, wait a minute, you don't have to download the information from this to create the report in Excel. Let's go into that software and create the report. Or you should be looking at this in order to identify what your needs are as far as staffing. A lot of it's matrix, understanding their matrix, and then and getting them to understand what is realistic financially and what's out there, what can be done for them, and hopefully helping their folks kind of get up to speed.
What is a small habit or tool that you personally use to keep complex projects really moving forward?
Uh, There's a team of us, and we talk every Monday and we go through everything. That's really how we keep up with everything. What are you doing? How are we doing it? And a task list. But I've been started using recently the projects by Microsoft Suite. I think it's going to work for us. I've tried a lot of different things. I've just had to adapt my way of doing things. So, putting in an intake system when my whiteboard got too big to track who I was talking to about becoming new clients.
So what are the top 3 operational pain points that you see over and over again with your clients?
Not using the software, not adapting to the software, not getting enough training. Training isn't a one and done. Training is an ongoing process, and it should be treated as such that you learn software in every industry is coming out with all these wonderful tools and features. You can't roll them out, if you will, all on one day. You have to say,
Yeah.
okay, what are we going to roll out this month? What are we going to roll out next month? And then you have to have training in there. It's skimping on the training. That's really, really detrimental. And it's setting it up properly and not just assuming that you're buying software from this company and they're going to help you implement it. They're going to say something like, you can have all these custom fields, and you're going, well, that sounds great, but you have no idea what you do with a custom field. And really thinking about what comes out of the software, not how pretty it is when you're putting the stuff in. Really spending the money and doing what you need to get it customized for you, for your firm. Every few months having a brown bag lunch with a trainer. So everybody gets together and it's a Zoom and you start asking questions about the software, or they're going to come in and he's going to show you all the new updates, simple things that you can do that are not costly. And then the other thing is really not using the automation features. And
So
that
how
takes time to
does
set up.
it does. So when you have a owner operator who's still busy and bogged down with workload, how do you pull them aside to act as CEO of their business to help make these decisions where your team can come in and be a partner in implementing?
Well, people don't come to us if things are okay. They come to us when they've really hit a wall, when they've gotten to the point where I know I can't do it anymore. I know there's got to be a better way. I know I have somebody managing my firm that they haven't grown for the position and I don't really know what to do with it. So they've hit a wall. They're at the point where they are willing to spend the time to sit down and really create a plan. And quite frankly, it's not the partner's role to design these systems, right? It's their role to say, I want this to happen. and this is the document I want you to use, and walk away and have either somebody on their staff work with us to get that going, maybe training somebody on their staff to be that person. If it's just them, then paying us to do that so that they aren't in there creating their documents, creating their workflows. Now, there are attorneys that want to do that and like
Yeah.
to do that, and that's fine. But you can at least show them what's possible, train them on it, maybe be a resource for questions, and then send them on their way.
In choosing, some of these intake services and things like that from first call to signed engagement, how does DLC incorporate, that process into a firm
For software or for everything?
for software? I mean, how do you do that from, working with many different firms and working remotely? Can you describe your process in terms of how you would go to work to support a partner in that?
Yeah, they would usually reach out and I would have a 30-minute consultation, a free consultation with them, and we would basically talk about them and what their pain points are and what they'd like to do, and then I might make some suggestions, some options that they might do. And then if they engage us, then we kind of have a kickoff meeting and we outline what their goals are, what they want to accomplish. And then my team and I either source software, we might know of a software we think is good, source the person that might do the information transition. We have people that work with us for that. We do training and really help them think about having somebody be an expert at document conversion, at setting up systems, any system is really helpful. When simple terms you don't understand, like mapping the software, we have to map the fields. Well, somebody doesn't necessarily know what that is, but I know they mean that A is going to, from the old system, is going to go into C in the new system. So things like that, it's just more efficient. So we try and get in there and be a resource and be at least somebody that has the experience that can explain things to them and help them walk through it. And then sometimes we get it and we make the transition and we work with somebody at their office and we get it all customized and ready. And then we roll it out and we train them and we're resources for them after the training. So we do from the beginning to the end. If we're helping a firm completely start up, then we do that for all the different areas for the insurance and the software and CHAR and all of that kind of things. We come in and we act as if we were their COO, if you will, CEO,
No.
and bring information to them and help them make decisions and then carry out their decisions.
That's where your experience really aligns well because you've created over time these relationships, if I'm understanding you correctly, of referral points of different parts of the operation.
Hmm. Yes, yes.
So basically, we're talking about fractionalized support. So rather than employing someone, and you'd mentioned that your services might not be like at some point the cost might be too high. But I'm curious, is it in this day and age, is it the experience of someone of your caliber where you've seen different transitions and you're aware of these partnerships and these relationships? Is, in your opinion, fractionalized services a model forward? Or do you think that at some point there has to be that role internally?
It depends on the size and it depends on how much control or how the partners work and how the firm functions. There always has to be somebody in a firm has some responsibility for the day-to-day operations. We don't go in, Sally called in sick and work that for you. We might put together a schedule and so when Sally's out sick, Diane takes over. So you need those people in-house, whether it's a senior secretary or, you know, sometimes it's a partner. But for most of the things that we do for small firms, it certainly can be outsourced. It certainly can be something that you don't need to have somebody in-house. For example, we are fractional legal administrators for small firms, and they just pay us by the hour because at the end of the year, we tend to do more work. We're doing their healthcare enrollment. We're doing their insurance renewals. We're doing their 401k forms so that they can get the modeling and everything right. We might do their onboarding. We might do their offboarding. We might counsel them on managing employees or, compensation systems. So they don't need us all the time. So we go in as they need us and help them. And I think that that's a really good model for small firms because it's so much more efficient for them. It's so much more efficient for the managers. And the folks that we do that for really appreciate the fact that they don't have to think about it.
Yeah. So then as far as who your dream client is, I mean, do you like to go in and build from scratch so that all of these things could be applied? Or do you like to work at solving individual problems and work with the business to progress and grow that way? Which do you prefer?
I really like the startups, and there's a lot of that going on right now. Practice groups leaving law firms, and across the country, we do startups. And so we're doing a lot of that. And I like that because people are excited and we get to start at the beginning and set them up properly. And it's fun to work with people that are starting their business. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. And personally, my team, we all do different things and feel comfortable doing different things. But for me, I like to evaluate and strategize and give samples and ideas of what to do. For the law firm openings, I like to do the pro forma budget. I like to be the person that says, yeah, you should do this or no, you shouldn't do this kind of thing. I like to do more of the high level, talking with the partners and helping them kind of get through it.
So let's talk a little bit about how you, in and of itself, are an owner operator. How do you navigate the challenges of both working in and on your business?
Sometimes not very well. We all, want to be the 4-hour work week, right? All those books that you read at the beginning and the podcasts that you're listening to, and you're getting all excited about how I can work less. Not so much.
Do you believe that's possible?
I believe it's possible if you don't work the business. I believe it's possible to have a business and be an owner of a business and not really do anything, sure, and make money off it. I don't necessarily know if that's possible for an attorney, for a law firm or people in a law firm. I don't see that. I think it's the minority. I don't think it's the majority. I think people strive to that and that's what, a lot of people think they're going to do, but that's not really realistic.
Yeah.
So you start out by doing everything, even creating your own website and learning all of this stuff. And the first thing I outsourced was my website. It's silly because you don't even think about it, but you're like, somebody else do that. And then I knew I needed somebody, an assistant, somebody to do, help me schedule and do other things like that. So I've had an assistant for quite a long time. I think that that's one of the things that's fallen by the wayside that is detrimental to law firms is we don't need a quote secretary. We're just going to have billers because there's so much somebody can do for the leaders of the firm, for the leaders of any business that makes life so much better. That's kind of my model is hiring for when we need it for the, usually in positions for legal managers in small firms, kind of like myself, and they get paid as they work. They work, they get an hourly rate and I bill them and I operate just like a law firm. The only person I quote guarantee or, I'm really worried about is my assistant.
Yeah.
I do worry about having enough work for the people that work for me and my commitment to them, but it's not a hard commitment. We don't really take that into consideration, how hard it is to make money. It's you undervalue yourself. So your rates in the beginning are too low. And then somebody comes in to work for you and says, I'm not working for that. You're not charging enough money. You need to charge X, Y, Z. I'm like, okay, then you charge that money and you're like, oh, okay. People are still coming. But the stress and worry about making payroll is real. And in a situation like mine, I couldn't get loans. I don't have investors. We're just trying to use your 401k money and your retirement and credit cards and trying to make sure that you get through it. But it takes a long time. It's not
Does.
overnight.
This is the struggle part that I think that people don't speak enough about. I mean, to your point, you do read all of this information about working smarter and not harder, and you hear this stuff even to what you said about, increasing your rates, which is one of the ways to infuse capital into your business. But there is a real fear related to mindset. So I'm curious about yours, Diane. At what point through this journey did you feel like you were starting to have a handle on things and those bad days, which happen 4 out of 5 days out of a week, probably you're putting out fires. You're an owner operator. You're constantly solving problems in your own business and in others. But what do you personally do to balance that out? And at what point did you start feeling like you were overcoming that panicky anxiety feeling that all of us face?
I think we balance it out by doing things we want to do, even if it's in the middle of the day, and saying, I can work tonight. And don't get me wrong, there have been stretches where I was working 7 days a week, long stretches. The other thing is we make our own deadlines, right? Being realistic about those deadlines is really important. and really not, there's something we do an assessment for a firm and I say we can do it in 8 weeks. Well, right now with our workload, we can't do it in 8 weeks. Can't say that. So what's realistic when I'm giving a deadline? Most of my clients don't really have an idea of how long it should take. So really being clear about your deadlines and not making yourself crazy by making unrealistic deadlines. I think that that's really important. And that took a long time. Again, because you're starting your business, you don't want to lose business. My conversion rate was very, very high at the beginning. Now it's more normal. Now it's, 25, 30%. And
Yeah.
that's more normal because I've raised my rates and because sometimes I'm not the right fit. And I will tell them that. I know that the solos that are barely getting by can't afford what I'm doing. So I try and give them resources and help them in some way. But I'm not the right fit for everybody. And
Yeah.
understanding that, I think that realizing and really embracing the fact that the world will continue to spin. It's going to keep spinning. I don't have to worry about whether I get this report to this attorney on Friday afternoon. If I don't, the world is going to continue to spin. I can send an email saying, I just didn't get it done. I will have it to you next Wednesday. Say, I'm going to fire you. Give me my money back. Being okay with that. And that comes with maturity. It comes with confidence. It comes with time.
Does come with time.
Unless you don't care, unless you're just that kind of a person, unless that's your personality. But normally that kind of a personality isn't going to be a good entrepreneur.
What do you think makes a good entrepreneur? What are the
I don't know, 'cause I
standouts?
never wanted to do this. I never wanted to work for myself. And now this is
Really?
the longest.
You
Yeah,
always thought you would be working
never
for
wanted
someone
to.
else?
Yeah, I never wanted to do this. I never wanted to have the responsibility of somebody else's livelihood. It takes experience and an expertise. You have to have an expertise in something. And to get an expertise, you have to have experience. So when you're 22 and you think you're going to be an entrepreneur, there's this pie in the sky that, oh, we're going to all end up being, Thanos, or it's like your child playing baseball at 7, really going to make the major leagues.
Right.
Am
Right.
I at 22 really going to make $1 billion with my idea? So that's very, very important, is to understand that you have to have something to sell and you have to be able to be authentic about it. You have to be able to want to buy it yourself or else and authentically want to buy it. And you have to get a community around you that you're comfortable with. You need that. You need people that you can talk to and that you can commiserate with and have a cocktail with on Friday night and get ideas. Feel like you're not being judged.
Yes. Yeah, just a network of people. I actually had someone tell me yesterday that you should have someone ahead of you, behind you, and side by side. And I thought really good words to share.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up, Diane, I want to make sure we kind of touch on what is one metric that you think if there is a firm that is really struggling, just they're in the thick of everything and they don't even know where to start. What's one metric that they should be doing, tracking weekly to try to even steer the ship in the right direction? What would your advice to them be?
Your product is an hour or is a flat fee for an estate plan, but that's your product. How much does it cost you to make that product? Are you making any profit on that product? So it's really being very conscious of what your folks are doing, if you are billing appropriately, and collecting what you bill. So it's really looking at the accounts receivable, I guess. That's a very important metric. You need to know what it means so that you know that, okay, so if Sally bills 50 hours in a month, I've paid for her. So she billed 80. I'm not really happy with it, but she paid for herself. At least I'm not losing money on that person.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they aren't looking at it that way. What's your COG? What's your cost of goods sold?
Yeah, that's a great suggestion as a way to get started in learning a little bit more about your business and how your personal operations are flowing.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's important.
Okay, in the final segment, we always talk about what is left unfinished. The show is called Unfinished Business for a reason. So, what is yours? I'm curious. What is yours for DLC and for you, Diane, personally?
My unfinished business, I want to be more of a speaker. Personally, I think that that's unfinished and I'm working on that. It takes a long time. In my business, you can laugh, but it's really documenting and systemizing. We do it for other people and then we're getting it. And okay, when you do that, make sure you write it down. Make sure you put the directions down. I think that that's is getting the business so that it is more self-sufficient and self-reliant.
If you can remove one barrier for what you have seen that keeps most small firms stuck, what is that?
Not willing to pay the money to do it right. The operations of your business is very important. It's very important, and it can either make you or break you emotionally, financially. I'm working with law firms that are multi-million dollar businesses, and they're not willing to pay the price to have somebody manage their multi-million dollar business because they don't think it's worth it. Really? That's the barrier, is understanding the worth of good management and good support and paying for it.
Yeah. What do you personally do to try to overcome that barrier?
I tell them, you're a multi-million dollar business and you're paying $50,000 for somebody to run it for you. They're like, oh, I never think about it that way. No, you're spending, 2% of your gross on marketing, and you're not getting enough clients. Maybe you need to spend a little more on, things like that. It's like, let's look at what's really going on and really look at being thoughtful, but taking some risks.
Yeah. So what is unfinished for DLC? What's the 5-year outlook?
I think that to continue to grow, to continue to add, and to have more business across the country. I guess it's to be a company that people think about when they think of operations. It's like, oh, that's right. That's what you think about certain things, and you think about certain people. You think about tires, you think about, Firestone. I'm never going to be that. But that's kind of what, in bar associations or legal communities, it's like, who do we know that can help us start a law firm, or can help us, you know, add a partner, or can help us get straightened out? Yeah.
Okay, so final question I like to ask, this is at the end, and this is kind of a hypothetical scenario here, but more so on the personal side. If, let's just say, you have accomplished everything with this business that you want to, you become a national speaker, you could only leave 3 pieces of advice for any young entrepreneur based on your experience. What things would you share? What words of wisdom would you share?
It's harder than it looks. It takes longer than you think, and you better love it.
Well, Diane, I want to thank you for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. For any owner operators in the legal space that are looking for some support, we are definitely going to link DLC's contact information below, and I'm sure Diane would be very happy to connect with you. And until next time, take care of your unfinished business.